all rise. We'll have the reading of the prayer, please.
Lord, by the strength of thy Holy Spirit, grant us the willingness to place service above personal gain and to respect our obligations of justice in our positions as members of the Council of the Town of Essex.
Welcome, everyone. I'll now declare the meeting open and ask if there's any conflicts of interest amongst the council members. Nope, that's good. Looking for the adoption of the Monday, January 13th regular council meeting. Councillor Vokes, supported by Deputy Mayor Meloche. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Looking for the adoption of the minutes of Monday, December the 2nd regular council minutes amended. Councillor Vokes, Councillor Scott, any questions? Councillor Baker?
I just referring to the amendment is referring to what? Was that the issue that we talked about before, Cheryl?
That's correct. It is resolution number R13-12-579, which deals with the site plan control agreement for Scott Waters' property, and the item 1 was amended to include stormwater management controls, all to the satisfaction of the town of Essex.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Monday, December the 16th, regular council meeting minutes. Councillor Vokes, supported by Councillor Bowman. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Monday, December the 16th, 2013, special council meeting. Councillor Vokes, supported by Councillor Scott. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Reports from administration. Corporate Services Report Number Clerk 2014-01. Bylaw 1270. Agreement with Mike Bezier for Cemetery Superintendent and Caretaker duties. Moved by Councillor Bundy. Councillor Bowman supports. Any question? Councillor Baker.
So just two quick questions. One, maybe this to Don, if your worship. With regards to our new fee, or I don't know who can answer this, but regarding new fees, do we, and the service cost, do we tend to have a surplus in this particular area with our new contract? Because the fees have been raised. Do we have a surplus? Will we have a surplus or project one for services, for openings and closings?
Through you, your worship, generally we do not have a surplus. There is actually a deficit in the cemetery cost center. What has happened over the years as a result of increasing the fees to keep up with inflation, with increases in the caretaking, we've reduced the amount of deficit, but we haven't eliminated it.
And percentage-wise, is it large, or?
It ranges, depending on the year, it ranges anywhere from 30 to 45,000. But it's, like I say, it's coming down because we've been keeping up with, at least with inflation.
So do we take that in consideration with regards to setting this new fee rate and the raising of the rates we did earlier for the new rates?
Through you, yes, we take into account the consumer price index changes for certain rates, and for rates where the caretaker's involved, we take the actual increase that he's proposing in his rates and we apply that increase to our rates.
So historically we're running about a $30,000, $40,000 deficit?
That's correct.
Okay. Next question then, if I can, is there's a mechanism in this agreement that says subject to change at any time if fuel prices go up and minimum wages go up. So are we going to, we open that and we match that automatically if fuel prices go up? Because usually when you do an RFP contract, it's for a period of time, and they should be speculating some of that, because so if fuel prices go up and minimum wages change, we then have to, are we go to renegotiate this? Is that what that says?
Through you, your worship, when this was discussed with Mr. Bezier, we were talking significant changes. We're not talking, 5 cents or 10 cents. We're talking, they were talking at one point about the minimum wage going up $1 or over $1. At that point, we would consider if he requested more money, because he has a lot of his work is contracted, subcontracted out, or he has students and workers for him. It's not unusual sometimes to see an inflationary clause in a contract, particularly as it relates to fuel prices, where they're added on if it exceeds a certain percentage increase.
You know, just wondering why we wouldn't be able to put a monetary measure on that. I mean, if we're saying substantial, what does that mean? If fuel prices go up 10 cents or 5 cents,
I would say, through your worship, we would be talking for fuel prices, we'd be talking, 50 to 75 cents a liter. We're not talking the 5 and the 10, because it's always ranging up and down between that.
is there any reason that we wouldn't want to put that in the agreement that says if it goes beyond this amount, then we can reconsider it?
It would still be up to council to refuse if there was a request for an increase. It would be brought back to council for their consideration.
Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries. Number 9, correspondence, Committee of Adjustment agenda. Councillor Vokes moves, supported by Councillor Baker. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Committee meeting minutes, Essex Centre BIA, for all February, March, April, May, June, September, and October. Deputy Mayor Meloche, Councillor Vokes, any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Essex Accessibility Advisory Committee, November 19, 2013. Councillor Baker?
Your Worship, there's a number of motions that need,
5 recommendations.
yeah, so maybe we should deal with each one of them?
You can if you'd like. Okay. Number 1, you'd like to deal with that one? EAAC 13-11031.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor Bondi, supports. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Number 2, EAAC 13-11032. Center Street, parking spot. Councillor Bondi. Councillor Baker supports. Any questions? I had one, but I got it from answer from administration earlier, so. All in favor? Motion carries. EAAC 13-11-033. Councillor Bondi moves, supported by Councillor Vokes. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. EAAC 13-11-035. Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Baker. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. EAAC 13-11-036. Councillor Scott moves. Councillor Baker.
Support. I have a question.
With question. Sir.
So this, the need for a sidewalk, then this should be consideration to go to budget, obviously, right? This is all this is doing?
Yep.
Okay. Because looking at doing a sidewalk there, that's what they're asking.
Yep. Right.
Okay.
They've been coming back to us a few times to deal with this issue. Anything further? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Essex Accessibility Advisory Committee, December the 17th, 2013. There are 3 recommendations in there. Would you like to go through them separately?
We can put them on. I just have questions.
Okay. We could do them all together. Looking for a motion. Bondi, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Baker. Question?
So I guess I'm looking at the survey that was done for this accessibility, which is a good idea, and the recommendations are to promote on the website the caravan, which is a good idea. But how many, the survey itself, how many taxi cabs do we have in Essex Centre, Harrow Centre, McGregor and Colchester? Do we have, because there's only, I think, I'm not sure how many taxi cabs were surveyed in this survey. So how many taxi cabs do we have?
Through you, Your Worship, there was no specific taxi cab survey. The survey was available to anyone. It wasn't directed at any one person or any one company.
So, and I guess why I'm asking is because our taxis, we're asking for an accessibility survey. We have one accessible caravan that's done by a not-for-profit group, gets funded through the LIN. What are we requiring our taxi cabs to do when it comes to accessibility? Do we have any licensing with regards to that? We're putting out a survey to provide or get some response for accessibility, but yet we only have one accessible vehicle in our whole municipality.
Through you, Your Worship, the requirement to receive input from the public related to the need for accessible taxi cabs is under the Ontarians for Disabilities Act, a requirement that we do this. It's not focused on taxi cabs per se, it's focused more on general transportation, paid transportation that people can take as an alternative to get to an appointment or whatever. So I'm not sure why you're asking specifically about taxi cabs. This is just a survey to see if there a need. If there's a need, how can we address that need? And that may involve seeing what we can do with our private cab companies, or we have a not-for-profit that provides accessible service, see if they can implement the service a little bit more often, or is it just a matter of advertising and making sure people are aware? Because what I did see in some of the surveys was people that were saying they didn't realize that there was a caravan, because that was one of the options on the survey, is whether or not they'd use the caravan, and they weren't aware of it. So I think what this report is suggesting is that there is a need, and at this point, let's see if education helps in terms of promoting the caravan, because our accessible taxi cabs have no requirement to be accessible at this point.
And so that's my reason, because you asked me why I'm asking about taxi cab, because it was labeled the Accessible Taxi Cab Survey. That was the name of the survey.
That's correct, yes.
So I didn't know if the purpose was to see if A, there was a requirement for accessibility, number one, and B, do we have enough accessibility availability, I guess. And it doesn't seem that we do. We have one, which is really tied up with medical visits. There is a criteria over 55 years of age or whatever. So there's criteria for use, but it's not public use when it comes to accessibility.
It is public use. Anybody can use the caravan to get transportation to an event, to a doctor's appointment, to shopping, and a whole list of different things that they can use it for. I mean, the object here is to see if there is a need, because if there is a need, the municipality has to find a way to provide and satisfy that need, and rather than jump in and say, okay, we're going to subsidize getting accessible features on taxi cabs or whatever, to meet that need, let's see first if the advertising will help, and if that won't, then we'll have to look at other alternatives.
I think it's a good start because, in my opinion, and what I hear, there is a lack of taxi cab accessibility. First of all, taxi cabs. We don't have any licensing. I don't know what our licensing for taxi cabs are. So maybe that's something we could look at as a result of this. It's about accessibility, number one, but it's also about availability. We don't have any you know, when you live in Harrow or Colchester, there is nobody. There's somebody who runs around with a sign on the top of his vehicle, but also it doesn't meet any of the standards that we'd want to have for a taxi cab. So I think it's something we need to address for a municipality, maybe moving forward. So it's just my opinion.
Thank you, sir. Any further questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Bylaws, bylaw number 1282, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a lease agreement between the Town of Essex and the Harrow Health Centre Incorporated for office space at the McGregor Community Centre located at 9571 Walker Road, McGregor, Ontario. Deputy Mayor Meloche, Councillor Bowman, Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Bylaw number 1283, being a bylaw authorizing the borrowing of money to meet current expenditures of the Council of the Town of Essex, the municipality. Councillor Bowman moves, supported by Councillor Vokes. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Bylaw number 1284, being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy and to provide for the payment of taxes and to provide for penalty and interest. Deputy Mayor Malash moves, supported by Councillor Scott. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Bylaw number 1285, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an amending agreement between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Community Safety and Correctional Services and the Corporation of the Town of Essex for the provision of police services under the Section 10 of the Police Services Act, RSO 1990 CP .15. Councillor Bowman? Councillor Bundy? Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. E, bylaw number 1286, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the January 13, 24 regular meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Essex. Councillor Vokes, Councillor Bondy. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. As soon as we get adjourned, it may be. Looking for adjournment. Councillor Vokes, Councillor Scott. All in favor? Motion carries. Always in order.